Today we are looking at perhaps one of the best well-known watch companies in the entire world, and they are guilty of creating Homage watches. Now we've all, if you've been in the affordable watch collecting game for any period of time, we've all heard the name Pagani Design, San Martin, Wish Do It, Chronos. These are all Homage watch companies. But did you know this watch company, Bulova, is one of the worst offenders, especially in the 80s and 90s. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase, and this is All Things Random, mostly watch reviews with some random stuff sprinkled in between. Now, I've been doing some affordable watch videos, and there are going to be more in the future. I just have a line of watches that I need to review, but today we are looking at this, my vintage 1989 day-date Bulova. Now, this is a direct homage from the 1980s day-date that was available from Rolex. In fact, nobody really knows. It's like there's this darkening, this forgetfulness, this memory wipe of what Bulova did in the 1980s and 90s, and they were one of the worst offenders when it came to homage watches. In fact, not only did they do the day-date that I'm talking about here, they also did a Bulova Datejust that I also have here. They also did an homage of the Cartier tank. They also did homage of the Royal Oak. Now, if you want a Royal Oak Bulova homage from 1989 or 1990 or 1988, these things run like $4,000. It is insane. But again, Bulova, one of the brands that you find in every single mall, every single outlet, every Zales, every K Jewelers, every one of those jewelry stores that everybody knows, especially here in the US, Canada, and I'm sure in Europe. Bulova is known throughout the entire world. Today, Bulova is very well known for being an affordable, tough, durable watch. They come in from anywhere from $150 to $500. They are very well known for having quartz movements or Japanese Miyota automatic movements. But this one right here actually is powered by Swiss at a movement. First, you got to ask yourself, why are you going to buy an homage, a vintage homage, instead of the luxury watch brand? Well, first, it's the awkwardness of the conversation about wearing an homage. Now, if you have this on your wrist and someone says, oh, is that a Rolex day-date? You say, no, it's a vintage 1989 Bulova day-date. And people are going to say, oh, that's pretty cool. It's different if you say, no, this is a Pagani Design. And they're going to say, what's that? Even worse if you say, no, this is a Wish Do It. They're going to say, do what? Instead of knowing that Bulova is a very well-known watch brand, and the fact that you have a vintage version of an homage really does kind of wash away any of the weirdness of having an homage watch or someone asking if there's a Rolex on your wrist. Now, right now, if you're interested in picking up any type of vintage Bulova, again, that Royal Oak homage is like $4,000 if you can find one. But if you want to pick up a day-date or Datejust, they range anywhere from $350 for the quartz versions, all the way up to about $1,200 for like the limited edition Tiffany that was offered back in the day. Now, these are going to be anywhere from 1985 all the way from about 1992, when a lot of these Datejust and day-date homages were created. And like any vintage watch, you're going to have the eccentricities of the vintage watch, similar to the fact that there are hollow inlinks. Listen to this. It does have the chintzy feel of a vintage watch. So know that you're going to get all the heartache and all the love of a vintage watch and everything it has to offer. So know that going in. Now, the size of this watch comes in at 36 millimeters in diameter, and for me, it is such a sweet spot on a wrist, especially for a dress watch. Now, long ago are the days of large watches, and the 36 to 38 millimeter watch has had a resurgence here in the recent times. To me, This is great because I think, again, 36 millimeter watches wears extremely comfortable. It's very classy, and you can't deny the overall aesthetic and design of this traditional piece. Now, this is the reason why Rolex themselves continue to make this watch decade after decade with only subtle differences because of its timeless design. Now, when you look at this watch specifically, it has a silver dial, it has baton indices, and similar hands. Inside, like I said, is not the affordable Japanese Miyota of today's watch, but instead is an ETA 2834-2 that you see here. Now, one of the things that I do love about this watch is the quick changeover day-date function, both at the 12 o'clock and at the 3 o'clock position. You can see above that Bulova emblem at the 12 o'clock position is the day of the week, and at the 3 o'clock position underneath that Cyclops eye is going to be the day of the month. Now, one of the things that I do love, even back in 1989, these watches were so good that when they needed to change over, both the day and date changed over instantaneously and is beautiful to watch on the wrist. Now, you can see this happens about 15 minutes before midnight, but that's okay because, again, this is a vintage watch. If I wanted to make it more accurate, I could simply remove the hands at 15 till 12 and then realign them and reset them at the 12 o'clock position. I don't think this is necessary. Again, one of the things about vintage watches are the little quirks that come with vintage watches. Now, on top of the dial is a sapphire crystal, but the Cyclops eye is gonna be a mineral crystal. You can see that it's already scratched, but that's okay. Similar to the case is also scratched up, and even with the hollow end links and the bracelet that is just beat to hell, I love the story behind vintage watches. A lot of people don't like vintage watches. A lot of people don't like used watches because it's not new to them. Me, I love vintage watches because every single scratch, every single ding on this watch, every slight chip of the crystal that hasn't been replaced, as long as it doesn't actually damage the watch itself, is a story, right? This was worn. This had a life far before me. Now, I was born in 1985, and this watch was released 4 years after my birth. So that means for 36 years, this watch has either been in a drawer somewhere, on someone's wrist somewhere, or in a shop somewhere. It's seen the world, and to me, I think that's amazing. I am a slight romantic when it comes to that, and that's just me. I love the story behind watches. In fact, I have one watch, a Hoagland & Sons watch, that I almost got rid of because of an incident that happened at work with a woman who killed herself, and then blood got all over me. And I wanted to get rid of that watch simply because of the horrors that I remembered from that watch. Now, I had released the story of that watch years ago. My wife told me to take it down, and I did. But if you guys are interested in hearing that story, leave a comment down below, and perhaps I'll retell the story. I could replace the Cyclops. In fact, when you look here, I actually put that Cyclops on myself. It is not hard to remove a Cyclops. It is not hard to apply a Cyclops. It's just, do I want to, or do I just want to leave it as is? Now, outside of the presidential style bracelet that has a multi-level of finishing, it has brushing along the outside, it has high polish along the centers. One of the things that I do love is the Bulova clasp, the fold-over clasp. The logo is almost hidden where you would pull to loosen the watch to allow it to go on your wrist. Now, one of the things that I do love about the date just and day date style of watch, especially with the fluted bezel that just catches a light perfectly, is the fact that this watch, the day date and date just versions of any watch out there, similar to the Rolex, is the perfect watch, the perfect everyday watch to dress up or dress down. And I'll give you an example here. Now, this thing looks great on the bracelet. It is very dressy on the bracelet. It would look great in a suit. It would look great in a polo. But then you add it to something like this vintage Italian calf leather watch strap from Chase Straps. Now, it gives it a different level of elegance. Now, it's still slightly dressed up, but also dressed down. Then even if you want to dress it down even more, you can put something outside of this brown Italian leather strap from Chase Straps. You can put the vintage suede strap that's gray from Chase Straps. And it dresses it down even more. The thing that I love about the Datejust, it is the perfect watch. It is the perfect watch. People will argue back and forth that the Rolex Submariner or the Explorer is a perfect watch. No, the Datejust or Day Date, even though they are dressy watches, are the perfect watches, especially for every day. If you had one watch in any one watch collection, I would say you should get a Day Date or a Datejust because of this very fact. Now, it's always a controversy to say you should buy a vintage watch because vintage watches have a lot of problems behind them. They do. Something that is 36 years old that may or may not have been serviced, you're going to need to get it serviced, which means it's going to cost you not just the $800 for the watch, but another $250 to $350 to have it serviced. Now, the great thing about having a Swiss movement in this watch is the fact that it's built for life. So though it is 36 years old, it still has another 36, 46, 56 years left in it. And even though this is an older watch, they still make parts for this movement, which is really good to see. What do you guys think? Again, Bulova, the worst offender when it comes to homage watches, especially back in the 1980s and 90s. Now, this is called the Bulova Super Seville Day Date. And if you look up Super Seville right now from Bulova, they have re-released the Super Seville, but it comes in this kind of weird cushion-shaped squared case that I don't think is that attractive at all, and it does have a high hertz quartz movement in it instead of an automatic. I would choose the vintage over the brand new one, but again, that's all personal opinion. Anyway, thanks guys for sticking by. If you're still here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and it really does help the channel. Hit the like, leave a comment down below if you guys want to hear that story. If you don't, that's cool too. I would love to forget about it, but it is an interesting story, and it does really put a perspective on what watches can see in their life, sort of like human beings see a lot in their lives. So do the objects we carry on us every single day. Anyway, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.